Okay,
Okay.
let's go.
Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Daniel and I'm a developer and architect. And with me today is Tobias, who's an application security specialist.
Hello.
We're from Omega Point, where we have been building applications and maintaining applications with high security requirements for more than 10 years. So everything we show here today will be available on our security blog, where there's links to demo code as well.
Yeah, and the reason we're two here on stage today is to emphasize that application security often is a team effort. And together we represent a common scenario where we have skilled DevOps teams creating features, represented by Daniel here. So he's agile, self-organized, and security aware. But every now and then he gets a little help from someone outside the team, perhaps a security expert, and that would be me. So tell me, Daniel, what kind of help do you get from me? I mean, there's no question about it. You're a better developer than me. Your code is clean and beautiful, give and take a commit or two, right? So what value could I possibly add by reviewing your code?
Well, while my modesty prevents me from saying that you're 100% correct, we all make mistakes sometimes, so it's often good to get an outside perspective, extra pair of eyes on the code.
Yeah, that's a good point, but you could get that from anyone in the team, right?
Yeah, but you have more of an outside perspective, and since you are focused on AppSec, you're more aware of how my code could be misused or the functional requirements and such.
Yeah, that's true. It's really hard for a developer to be focused on how to misuse the functionality you're building. So with this introduction, we have identified two key aspects for security reviews or when reviewing code. That it's performed by someone else other than the developer who was building the feature, and that it has a different perspective. So, and here we have a lot of redacted DevOps loop, or there is a code change, and then there's a review, and we may go back between change and review a few times, but eventually it gets deployed to production. And the key aspect here is that it could be fully automated, or it could be manual. But regardless of how we do it, we need a review stage to assert good quality and security. And so we need that validation step. And there are, of course, many perspectives to review. There could be performance, architectural patterns, and we have coding best practices and so on. But in this talk, we will only focus on security aspects, and in particular, confidentiality and integrity aspects. So to give an example of what this could look like, we will go to the first demo, and we will switch to some code. And we will start working on adding a get by ID endpoint to our product's API. It's a very simple API. It only has one endpoint right now. It's a get all products endpoint, and here we'll add mapping for the get by ID endpoint, and then we will add some more code here to handle the request where we handle the request, and then we will also have a product service layer to where we do the actual domain logic or the business logic. So we have sort of domain-driven design patterns here applied with domain primitives and a service layer, and we have an interface, and then we add the implementation in a product service. And here we have the get by ID service method.
So, so now I think I'm pretty much done. So could I get you to review this for me, please?
Yeah, for sure. So just create a pull request, and then I can review it. And we'll see what we have. So here are the three changed files, and if we start looking at where we map the request to the route there, it's clear route. It's a get method and nothing else. And we also have the require authorization with a policy that asserts that we can only reach this method if we have this read claim from our token. So that's good. We have functional level access control. Yeah, and then we can look into the method there, and we can see that we do early input validation, which is good, and we're using domain primitives, so we enforce this, and so we don't have any strings in the service layer, just domain primitives. And we also have the smaller from route attribute. That's good, so we don't have any pollution issues on the input parameters, and we map to the correct responses. Yeah, looks good. We can go to the service and take a look at that. And here we have, once again, we check that we can access this method, function level access control. So that's defense in depth. We do this twice, both near in the endpoint and in the service layer. So that's good. And then we access the repository and get the product, and we return not found if not found. Yeah, that's good. And then success. And we also do logging in the right places. So we follow the correct patterns there. So it looks good. But there's one thing I was thinking about. Who can get a valid token for this API? What is the access model?
What do you mean? I'm not really sure.
So I mean, could it be from an end user session, or is it just your own internal system integrations that gets tokens with this read scope?
I'm not really sure. My team only owns the API.
Okay, so we need to look that up, what the access model is, and and if we do that, we will see that it's a multi-tenancy system where we have a market concept. So you should only be able to get products connected to a given market, and that end users can use this API.
Yeah, that's
so where is the code that checks the market check? I don't see that one.
No, there is none. I must have missed that.
Okay, so then we have a critical security issue here, which we have identified. So we go back to the code and fix it.
Yep. So I will go back to the product service, and we have a permission service there that I just remembered that we have that can check if you're in the correct market.
Yeah. So that's good. That's the pattern we use in this code. You could do this in many ways, but we have this permission service. So yeah, that looks good. Yep. The expected code is there, and we also take this seriously. So we have a bunch of tests, unit tests and system tests, and so. So where are the tests that proves that this actually works?
It's missing, I think.
Yeah, because we have had them, and they would have failed, right? So sometimes it's good with this test-first approach.
Yep, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it may not be practical at all times, but still. So add tests, and we start with some system tests that will be running on a deployed instance. We won't run those tests in this demo, so you just have to trust us that they will work. But we will add some unit tests also, and we will take a look at the test cases once we run them. So we start with the system tests to see that we cannot reach this endpoint when we don't have a token, and when we have a token, and so on. And we had some tests for the get all endpoint, so we will just sort of follow the same pattern here and add the same kind of tests. And let's see.
So endpoint tests.
Yeah, so that's good. And then we go to add some unit tests for the product service, and there will be a little bit more test cases to deal with there, but still not that many tests. And as you can see, they're fairly simple to write, especially if you prepare them like this.
Really fast to write tests.
But so with all the AI, I mean, it's easy to write those tests.
I'm almost as fast as AI,
So you should also add tests for the endpoint, the service endpoint.
Yeah, so I have the endpoint tests here.
Yeah.
And then I have this service test here.
You were so fast. I didn't see.
I told you, faster than AI.
Good.
And then, to make sure this works, I built it, and now I will see if I can run all the tests, and everything is still green. So we'll run them.
Yeah, and as you can see, we have both the happy cases with the 200 responses, and we have the negative testing concerning access control there. And this test, that would be broken if we remove the market check, for instance. So it's a very powerful way to show that authorization works, to have those kind of negative tests. So all is green. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Just
can I ship it?
Yeah, just merge and push.
I will push it to production straight away.
Good. So so many of us here can probably relate to this kind of workflow. In our experience, a lot of application security happens like this, a little ad hoc, but with the right kind of people in the team, it could work. But this process has one obvious weakness. What if Daniel here forgets to ask me about a review? Yep. We could, of course, mitigate that by adding branch protection and had mandatory reviewers from the AppSec team or someone else in the team, and then it would always work, right?
Yeah, but
so I just look at every pull request.
Yeah, that would certainly work, but there are many of us and just one of you, so I fear that would be a really slow process.
It certainly will, yeah. so that's a good point, and but we could educate more people, like people in the team. We could have a security champions program, perhaps, and so there will be many people that could do good, consistent security reviews. And then that could solve the problem, right?
Yeah, I think that would definitely solve the problem for us.
Yeah, and for some organization that works, but overall it looks like this. So this is the OWASP top 10 for APIs and the most common vulnerabilities. And even in organizations that has good application security procedures and so on, it's still common to find authorization bugs. As we can see, 4 of the top 5 here is about auth in some way, and on number 1 here was the thing that Daniel here missed, the BOLA issue. You forgot the market check there. So sort of the stats are against us, even if we do this quite well. So and that could be for many reasons. Perhaps the promised education never happens, and or perhaps it's just time-consuming, slow, and boring to do pull request reviews, and we're only humans after all. So to address this, there are 2 obvious ways to try and mitigate security bugs during development. And this is basically the things that we have. We can divide them into 2 categories. We have processes, and there are, of course, more things than this, but we want to highlight those things. And then automation that supports those processes or do additional things. So we could have checklists and so a little bit manual, and then we have the pipelines and different scannings and so on. But they all have their drawbacks and pros and cons with false positives and false negatives. But it's what we have, and they all play a role for solid, secure application development over time. So, and that also, Daniel, that includes documentation. I know you developers don't like that, but how else would we share the knowledge of the access model that you must check the market thing? So that's one thing that needs to be documented somewhere. Let's say we do all this, take security and quality seriously, and invest time and resources to establish a security baseline like this, so we know that there is a good process for every change that we do, preferably with high degree of automation, so it will be reasonably fast. We are secure by design. Do you think that would work?
Yeah, I hear you. That could work, and let's try it. I'm a little skeptical, but to start with, how would an API security review checklist look?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I can show you how it would work. The good news is that we don't have to invent this checklist ourselves. There is a great OWASP resource for this. It's the OWASP Application Security Verification Specification, and it's version 5 right now. And I can say that really fast because I said it a lot of times. And I will tell you a little secret. This is what I basically do when I review your code. From the top of my head, I apply the relevant controls from ASVS, and to show you how that works, we can take a look at ASVS, and here's a subsection from the chapter 8, which deals with authorization, and as you can see, we have function level access control, and then we have object level access control, and that's the BOLA issue. So if we go back to the code, then I started looking for function level access control, and we had it there, and then I looked for the missing piece, the object level access control, and that was missing. So quite easy to spot, and actually, if we read ASVS carefully, in 8.1, it tells you that you need to have the access model documented. So it covers everything. And when everything is green, then it's fair to say that we have a secure endpoint. So great, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds great, but how many verifications are there?
You mean altogether?
Yep.
Yeah, well, about 350.
I think that will take too long, and I don't think we can expect all of our developers to have that much AppSec knowledge, so they know how to apply these controls. I mean, you're even a part of the OWASP ASVS working group.
Yeah, that's true. I'm proud to contribute to the work with ASVS, and so perhaps I'm a little biased, but it truly is a great resource for verifying application security and help identifying those negative test cases that we did earlier. So, but I understand, and there is a challenge to apply this on the fly when you're coding and you're in a good vibe. You don't want to ruin that, right? So let's see, how can we do this better? I could pick out the most relevant ones for a typical API change, and there's even recommended in the ASVS that you should fork it and adjust it to your context, and we could perhaps build some interactive way for you to select the proper set of controls to use, and to show you how that works. It won't be perfect for every scenario, but still it could be good enough. So here on the next slide, I have just picked out the relevant ones for this change, and it's almost fits in a single slide. so it's about 50. But you could of course prioritize some, and so you don't have to read this. So still a bit much, and to make it even easier for you and the dev team, we could aggregate those into 8 questions that you always should check when you do a pull request for an API endpoint, for instance. And so here are the questions. And first, we should always check how we deal with authorization and authentication of the request. So that's really important. And then, how do we handle input? Do we do input validation? And do we need to do output encoding? For instance, when we call the repository, is it a SQL database? We should do parameterized SQL and so on. And then, are there any new dependencies or integrations introduced with this change? Really important to investigate. And also, can we find something that isn't code that shouldn't be there, like credentials or production data in unit test, for instance? So it's important to not commit that or push that. And then business logic misuse. It was really simple business logic here. This could, of course, be very complex to analyze, but you need to think of those negative test cases and how this can be misused. And then tightly connected to that, we have logging and error handling, and finally tests. And when you do the security view, in particular, look for those negative test cases if they are there. Often there are happy case tests, but often the negative ones are missing. So yeah, I need to.
Yeah, so this all sounds fair, but in my opinion, it's still slow and hard to scale. And you know how it is. We have definition of dones. They don't always get read. So couldn't we automate this with AI, perhaps?
Of course, we could try, but I'm a little bit skeptical here. But before we go that road, it's important to understand that despite the slowness and the drawbacks, you must understand these questions and be able to analyze the code from these perspectives. Because AI won't find anything, and we need humans to assert good quality and security. So a little skeptical, but given that you remember those questions, we can give it a try, and we go to the next demo and see if we can automate this. And yeah, so with the one, we showed that we can find bolas manually. So that's good. So we can always fall back to that working process. And now we'll try to automate this using GitHub Review Agent.
Yeah, so here we have the exact same PR that we did, and the only thing we have done is we have asked the Copilot Review Agent to review the code and give us comments. So it has. Yeah. And it complains about my indentation, which is hard. Yeah, you missed that one. It's hard. Yeah. And then it says we're using a different pattern from get all, and then it says something about unit test, which is good. We lack unit test, and then there's some unit tests that are missing again. And negative ones, no, and inconsistent audit logging. But nothing about the broken access control.
No, so kind of from a security point of view, it's kind of useless. It didn't find a critical security issue, so it sort of was a waste of tokens this time.
Yes.
But to be fair, at this point, the GitHub review agent, it had no information about the access model. There's nothing about the access model in this code or in this repo.
No.
So, and we knew that. Without that, I couldn't find the Boola either.
No.
It was because I know of it. So let's see if we can improve the knowledge of the agent.
Yep.
And run this again.
Yeah, so for this to work, it needs to have the same information that we do, or at least he did. I didn't know it, obviously, since I didn't add it. But so AI needs the same knowledge, so let's try and add that.
Yeah, and we will just do it in a simple way. You can do this in many ways, and we will just use the Copilot instructions file. And this access model is really simple, just one line. so they in our real-world scenario, you might have 10 or 20 or whatever. So, yeah, so we added this, and let's run it again.
Yep. So then
Same
we did
code and everything else, just this line that we added.
Yeah, and now the first comment it has is the getById method doesn't verify that the user has permission to access the product's market. According to the repository's access model, a client should only get products for a given market. So it found it.
Yeah, and it also says to use the has permission to market service.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really, really good, right? That we can spot the security issue by adding this piece of information. And we believe that one of the reasons that it works well with this code is that we have clear patterns for access control. We have a clear requirement, and the market concept, it's in the requirement, and it's also consistent in the code using domain primitives, and we have the permission service that has market functions and so on. So we think that is sort of in favor for us. That makes it easier for the agent to find this. Well, now I'm a little bit excited. Let's see if we can take this further. And I mean, that was just a simple demo that we can spot the Boola using AI. And if we add, what if we add even more information about security? I mean, there's a lot more to share with the agent. Yeah. So, and if we look at the AppSec resources that we use when we work, there are some great resources from OWASP, which we mentioned. So we have the ASVS, we have the top 10 list and cheat sheets. And then for more sort of architectural pattern that goes beyond the scope of OWASP or outside the scope of OWASP, we are proud to recommend this book written by some of our colleagues at Omega Point. And together with, if we combine this, but to understand how you should do the code, we have made a reference implementation, and that was the products API that we showed you. And also we have documented how we see things with security at our security blog, which of course could be, so when you see Omega Point there, it could be your internal documentation or your favorite books or what you have for good security in your organizations. These are examples that are available at our blog, and the book, of course, you need to buy. But yeah. So now that we have this sort of source of knowledge, how can we share this with the agent?
Yeah, so let's turn this into instructions for the agent and for API security. So instructions are, as you can see here, just simple MD files. You could think of them as a way to onboard a new colleague. And this is part of the authorization section, and we will look at this in more detail soon. So you don't have to read all of this, but there are some things. This is all stuff that aligns well with OWASP ASVS and stuff. And there are some things in here, though, that are specific to our API. So we have a permission service, as you saw, and then we base our permissions on sub-client and scopes. And we use .NET authorization with named policies. And then we had the domain service layer where we did the actual permission service check.
Yeah, so adding this small piece of information here that will sort of lower the risk for hallucinations and things like that. And it's also an important choice. We aim for an agent that is good at spotting security issues in our code according to our context and our architectural patterns. Not a generic agent that can find security issues in any code. So that's important, and also to have limit the risk of hallucinations and the wrong answers and false. Yeah. So and then we go back to the next set of demos, and And with this, we can see that if you just be on the slide a little bit longer.
Yep.
Yeah. So with the first two, we showed that we can find this, and now we add more information, and then maybe we can do a generic security posture check to find more issues and get better feedback from security. And also, as a final step, we will try to connect this to clear compliance references. For instance, if we are in a business that is that has regulatory compliance, then it's good to be able to show that you are compliant, and you can connect it to your policies, so that will be the final step here. Now we can go back to the.
I'm so excited! I just
demos.
wanted to show the demos.
And we also try to find a way here so you can do this without leaving the prompt in the so you can sort of keep the vibe and still get good security feedback.
That's great.
Yeah.
The slides are just there for. So if we go back here, now we have added. We have moved around the security instructions a bit. So this is still the access model. Now it lives in the GitHub instructions folder, and here we have the sort of security requirements, and then we have specific backend API instructions that tells how it should use the backend or review the backend and what's important there, and then you could have separate instructions for web or for some other API or whatever.
Front end.
Yeah, front end.
Perhaps, yep.
And then finally, we have some generic instructions in the Copilot instructions file. So here is like a general overview of how it should review our code. We have somewhat of those 8 questions are in there. Yep.
And also a link to references that we feel are important. And yep. So with all this knowledge added to the agent, let's try another review of the same pull request, the get by ID endpoint. You recognize the change by now, and let's see what we get.
Yeah, so here's the same review again from the get by ID endpoint you know and love by now. So here it says the same thing. And basically, it says that it's an IDOR BOLA now, so it found what it actually was, and we have some references to the documentation that we had.
Yeah, so we get a little bit more details, a little bit more help, so it's easier for developer to read more about this. But yeah. And then to show you that we can find other things than BOLA, we will just give another example. We've done a small webhook function, a notify endpoint, and a common mistake there is to just you receive an URL and then you navigate to it or execute that, and you have a SSRF problem. And it's able to spot that as well. And so that's good. There are, of course, a lot of test cases to test here. We have not tried them all, but it looks good and promising. So this is nice. We have a sort of an automated way to get good application security feedback in our pull request reviews, and also and to get feedback on the pull request and then we have shown that we can build APIs that are secure by design over time, and we have a design pattern that mitigates the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. We have using the strong patterns from domain-driven design and test-driven development, and we can, of course, find this both manually and in PRs using the AI agent. So,
yeah, this is all really good. But what about that compliance thing you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so now we had sort of security, good security. And this talk in the title it says secure and compliant APIs. So we will take a look at that. So far we have code and some MD files with the instructions there, and the instructions as you can see, they serve well both as readmes for humans and for agents. So we think it's really good help. But if we look at the pull request here, and then we can see that we have this reference there to the instructions, which is good. But it would be great if we also could get references to our internal security controls or our compliance requirements. And so we'll try to add that, but before we add more instructions to deal with that, we will look at how we deal with it manually. And I guess it's no surprise that compliance involves classic information security policies and security controls. And this is just an example. You would have your own. We have one at our security blog based on CIS controls, which you can look at for inspiration. But and one of the reasons that we use CIS controls is that the CIS controls is mapped. It comes with mappings to compliance frameworks like ISO, PSI, DSS, DORA, and things like that. So we could map from our internal controls to those, and we can, and that, not surprisingly enough, it's a spreadsheet, of course. But here you can see that we can map from our 16AE to, for example, PSI, DSS, and ISO. So by having this mapping, the team here it doesn't need to worry about the specific paragraphs in ISO, that someone else deals with that. The important thing here is to be compliant with the internal security controls and that we can have references to those. So that's what we're aiming for here. And if we go back to the controls, we can scroll down to, for when we do an API change, it's the application security control domain that's relevant. It's of course a broad topic with security, so there are many controls. But so we'll try to get references to those by improving the agent. And I think that's enough about controls, spreadsheets, and things like that. I guess you lost the vibe by now. So let's go and try and automate this in a more dynamic way without hard coding the mappings or anything like that.
Finally.
So
I thought you'd never ask. So here we can see that we have created an agent. So it's basically telling the coding agent now how to do review following these instructions. So you see we have Copilot instructions like we said before, and we tried with really simple instructions, but we got too much hallucinations. So instead we built an MCP server that has instructions for compliance and security in specific areas. So you can see here we tell it to run security QA to review security posture, and then we have our compliance controls to find those.
Yeah. So in security AI we basically gathered all the OWASP resources and our security blog and things like that, but in compliance QA we only have the security controls library to try and avoid hallucinations. It seemed like an easy thing to fix, but it was harder than we thought.
A bit harder than we thought, exactly. Yeah, so here you can see like the same PR again, but now we have added PR instructions for humans this time, since the GitHub agent is, as of now, not able to connect to our MCP server. So when we do reviews here, we ask a human to do it, and then we have a checklist, like they should do the security QA and then compliance QA questions.
Yeah. So we'll run the agent in the IDE, but maybe this will change, and there will be a good way to have this in the PR. Who knows? But yeah, it's a moving area, this AI thing. So
yeah. So to do. For me, like when I'm coding now, I can always now ask my agent before I do the pull request how my code looks, so I don't have to bother Tobias. So what we did now is said run agent's policy on the latest changes.
Yeah, and it was the same changes that we.
Yeah, it's always the get by ID. Yeah. So it does the review, and if you look at the instructions, we can see that it calls both security QA and compliance QA for the changes that I've done. And then it comes up with this summary here. So we can see it finds the BOLA.
That's important.
Yeah. And it finds that I am not good at writing tests. Yeah. And then it tries to mitigate this by telling me how I should have written it. And then it comes up with the references from the compliance and the ASVS control.
Yeah, so I think this looks really good. I mean, now we have sort of connected some more generic compliance requirements with application code and development, and that's could be a hard gap to bridge in the daily work of DevOps teams. So I'm happy. What about you, Daniel? Can you keep the good vibes with this kind of process?
Yeah, this is great for when I've actually written the code, or, so I can do the review part. But do you think we can do this even when I'm looking at, for instance, old code that I didn't write, or I have some questions about the code in general?
Yeah, I think that could work. We can try, and I know that sometimes developers ask me that they like clean code. They don't like to duplicate things. Like
nope.
So here's one example.
Yeah. So in this case, I know we check if the product is validated somewhere else. So
yeah, in the service layer.
In the service layer. Yeah. And this is in the endpoint layer, so it looks like redundant code. So I just wanted to know if I could remove it to get some fewer lines in my code. So what I did was I asked my security QA if I can remove the selected code. And I could not. So the conclusion down here is do not remove the check. And then it gives me the actual references to our guidelines on why I should not remove it.
Yeah, and also it's a good answer. It talks about defense in depth and the importance that it will be weakened if this is removed. So it's a good answer. Yeah, that looks good.
Yep. And could I also use this if I want to write code? So if, or not me, but the Copilot agent actually.
You don't want to type, you mean?
No, I don't want to type.
No? so probably, yeah. So you can, yes, for instance, if you would add we only had get endpoints, you want to add an update endpoint.
Yeah. For instance, so you can see here in the agent file that it says that any code or configuration, ISA, pipeline scripts, documentation with security implications, that's a hard word, created or modified by an AI agent must be reviewed for compliance with, and then it says the same things like I told the human to do for a review.
Yeah, and the same thing that ran when you ran the agent
locally
in your ID for the changes. So so that would work. Then we won't show it here, but we added a update endpoint, and the code was perfect.
Yeah. None of our review agents found any comments actually. No. So that's good.
So for this kind of well-structured small repo, it seems to work quite well.
Yep.
So this was the demos, and we have showed that we can get help from agents both using the prompt and in the pull requests, and then we can go back to the slides and look a little bit what was behind this. We mentioned an MCP server so.
So this is what we built. The first thing is not so much building as we started with MD files. So just for reviewing PRs, simple instruction files, but then we wanted some more powerful tools, and we wanted to integrate them into our daily work and our IDs. So then we added an MCP server. It looks something like this. So what we have here is skills in the MCP that we can connect to the IDE, and then we have a RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation, where we have indexed a couple of different sources into different indexes. And the reason that we have small different indexes is to reduce the risk of hallucinations by getting too much of a context for the AI to work with.
Yeah, so it was quite a lot of work to get those references better. but maybe you have MCP servers for other reasons, and maybe you have your internal control library and compliance reference for instance, in Office 365, and you don't have to build this all by yourself. But it's good to know that you can create more powerful things by doing an MCP server like this, and also that you can sort of stay in the prompt more. Yeah. So far it's been quite sunny. I think everything works, but we mentioned hallucinations a few times, and and as we said, the compliance mapping is not perfect every time. It's good, but sometimes it may not point to the most significant control, and so there's work in progress there. But and to show one example of what makes AI problematic, we have a few saved sessions here, and this was the question that you asked about removing the input validation in the controller, or in the mapping. So, and then we got that we should not remove it using GPT 5.2. And then we used Claude Opus 4.6, and we should not remove it, so that's good. And then we did the same thing again with GPT 5.2, and it said you can remove it. So it gives some reasons, but still this shows that it's not deterministic in that way. So you always need to take that into consideration. I mean, this answer looks quite convincing. But if you understand the code and the architectural patterns and defense in depth, then you understand that this recommendation is wrong. But it has good motivations why you can remove it.
Yeah, and it also points to a reference where it says it should not be removed.
Yeah, so that's the way it is. Yeah. So it's time to summarize, and we had those 8 questions. That we said were vitally important to understand, especially if you start using AI. So what are them, Daniel?
Well, something off.
Yeah. That's a good start. The first one, that's you should really remember that one, and so that is correct. So what more? What did we have more on the list?
I know there are 7. But I don't really know, but they are in the MD files anyway.
Yeah. That's true. So would you say it's a good thing that we have documented this?
Grudgingly, yeah.
Yeah. So good. Then we can move on. And we had input validation and output encoding, and we had dependencies and integrations, and we had credentials or production data or sensitive data, and business logic misuse. We had error and logging. And then we had the tests, and in particular the negative tests. So those 8 questions we often use when we review code and code changes, and they capture, they not capture every security aspect, but they capture the most important ones, and works quite well and are quite fast to apply. So remember those. And the second key takeaway we have. Is that can we use AI agents for support with security reviews? And we believe yes, you can. It provides support. It may not be perfect every time, but if you have the the right kind of instructions and repos, it works quite well. So we one final question for you here. So with all this automation, do you need me anymore, or can you just use?
Well, even if this will make it so I don't have to bug you with questions every day, all day. It's a win for both. We still need to assert that this works over time, and as expected over time, since we saw that AI is really prone to hallucinations and it will degrade over time. So when something like that happens, I prefer to ask you rather than another agent.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Humans in the loop are important for asserting security and avoid mistakes and to spot those hallucinations. And also before I would say that even if you would have said no, that you don't need me, I will remind you that for good reasons, if you're working with high risk functionality like within healthcare and banking and so on, that might be mandated to have a human in the loop by compliance, and you might have things like separation of duties and so on. So that's important to understand. And so then we have the fourth key takeaway.
Yeah, so context is important. Like you saw, we had split the indexes just to get the context window a bit smaller so the AI doesn't get confused. And also, just by adding a simple access model, we could spot the Ebola detection, like you have seen. 10 times by now, so I think. And then while our code has strong DDD and TDD patterns, that also helps. And we use the negative security tests to verify things, and that helps and fits well in with the automation for the agents.
Yeah, and finally, a little biased perhaps, but the OWASP ASVS is a good start for creating agent instructions and also to verify them. So please look into that. And yeah, that was all for us. Questions?
Yeah. Yeah, so the question was, how do we scale this? And I would say the thing you saw, we had the PR instructions. You could do like a centralized repo, so that someone is like Tobias is taking care of, and then you push that those instruction files out to all of the team's repos, and then you again a human in the loop that makes sure that those doesn't get changed over time.
So and if you in GitHub and you have enterprise, you could have things on the organization level that applies to everything. But still, often access models might be unique for each application or for a set of applications. So you need to sort of the team needs to adjust it. They could sort of get 50% maybe, and then they have to add their own stuff. So yeah. Yep. I only use GitHub Copilot stuff. Yep. What about Claude? Have you ever seen Claude stuff? Yeah. So the instruction files and MD files, they can be moved to basically any agent or platform. And then the reason that we demo with GitHub is that it's quite common to work with pull requests, but you could, of course, you don't have to work with pull requests to get good code quality. You can have other workflows as well. But the important thing here is that there is a review step, and that you sort of enforce that in some way. But yeah.
And the MCP server works with Claude as well. So
yep.
And GitHub has like the enterprise account as well, so where you are more isolated. So that would be a good fit for this as well. More questions? It was all crystal clear.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there are no more questions, please evaluate our talk using the QR code on your right. And we plan to publish demos of this and code on our security blog. So we want to do a bit more testing and research first, but there will be stuff up there soon.
Yeah, and then some of the basic stuff is there already, like the get by ID endpoint is there, but not the instructions, but the code is there. So, and yeah, and I also want to note, once we add those instructions, they will be work in progress. So it's you can have them some inspiration, but if they don't work, don't blame us. So, yeah, a question. Yeah.
For the CIS, what do you use to actually pull that down to make skills out of it for your agents?
You mean the MD file? The CIS controls are MD files. So when we do the RAG, we ingest those MD files from a repo, and then we train on we chunk those, and then we put them in the vector database for the So
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Basically, yes, because behind the MCP server is an Azure function that does the actual work.
Yep.
So that you could always just call that endpoint, which is how we test it. Like we ask questions about it. The MCP is more to hook it up with an agent.
Yeah.
But you could just use it as a questionnaire on a web page if you wanted to.
So, but the MCP makes it easier to integrate with the IDE and the.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, we could have done that with the GitHub agent. It could have called the API instead. Yeah. But it's cooler with MCP.
Yeah. Good point.
Did you try to couple of models in parallel and then
No, the question was if we used models in parallel. No, we should. We could do that.
We haven't tried it here, but we tried it with clients in more production-like environments, and that that could work. So they could sort of vote, and you pick like the majority vote, for instance, and then you limit the risk of hallucinations. So that could be one way to work, but it's important to note that it does not replace the need for a human in the loop to do quality control of that. But it's a little bit depending on your business and the risk appetite, right? Yep.
And your job is not in jeopardy.
Yeah. So.
Is that more questions? I think we still have time. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.